The woman woke up after a 27-minute coma, and then she wrote a chilling message. Hello, friends. Have you ever wondered what one feels and sees on the brink of death? Does everything about life flash before one's eyes? Or does one feel a sense of boundless peace and see the light at the end of the tunnel? Is it possible to look on the other side and come back to tell about what you have seen? One US resident managed to survive a 27-minute coma and upon awakening left truly chilling messages about life after death. Dina Hines, a resident of Phoenix, Arizona, USA, suffered a heart attack in February 2018. The woman's entire family was actively involved in sports and healthy living. On one such February day, she and her spouse were getting ready for their first hike, but near the threshold of the house, she collapsed. While her husband, Brian, waited for medics to arrive, he had to fight for his beloved's life himself. Several times he was forced to do cardiopulmonary resuscitation. But the woman's heart stopped all the way to the hospital. Doctors tried to start the heart, but all attempts were in vain. The American woman was virtually dead for 27 minutes, but the medics kept trying to bring her back to life, and luckily, they succeeded. After a long 4 hours of various procedures, Tina was transferred to a room with anxious family members. After a long awakening, she was able to gesture to explain that she needed a notebook and pen. With whatever we canned, she barely managed to write in the notepad legibly. And at first glance, the phrase, "It's real," when her worried family asked what she meant, the still powerless girl raised her eyes to the sky and wept. After her miraculous recovery, Tina said, it looked eerily real. The colors were very vivid. She claimed to have been in heaven, where she saw the figure of Jesus next to a gate from which yellow was cast. For the woman, this astonishing vision is strong evidence that there is life beyond the body and has further strengthened her faith. This incredible story so impressed the woman's niece, Maggie Johnson, that sometime later she got herself a symbolic tattoo on her wrist with an exact copy of the writing in the notebook. Etched to the girl notes that her aunt's story gave her confidence and was too vivid not to share. Approximately 90% of people who experience sudden cardiac arrest outside the hospital die. The man who initiated primary cardiopulmonary resuscitation probably saved her life. Statistically, 10 to 25% of patients who survive clinical death from a heart attack experience similar death visions each year. There is still no exact scientific explanation for this amazing phenomenon, but such a coming-of-age story is not the only one in the world. A truly credible story happened to a teenage clinical death survivor. Ak Clements, a 17-year-old. Retribution 17-year-old boy from Texas suddenly collapsed while jogging in gym class and lost consciousness. His heart stopped. The young man was rushed to the hospital. Doctors did everything they could to bring him back to life, but to no avail. They were about to pronounce the boy dead. Suddenly, the pulse returned. Zach was admitted to the intensive care unit, where he woke up a few days later. The doctors wondered how the boy managed to survive when he stopped breathing, and his heart stopped for a full 20 minutes. After his incredible awakening, he said he also saw Jesus. When I died, I saw a man with long hair and a thick beard, and immediately I knew it was Jesus, said the guy in his interview. And went up to him. He put his hand on my shoulder and told me everything was going to be okay and not to worry, the young man added. Zach's father, Billy Clemens, said the family considered his resurrection a true miracle. To what he reported when he came to life is impossible to explain and humanly impossible to justify, Clemens said. Zach's resurrection stunned doctors because this unique return to life does not fit the usual framework of medical knowledge surviving clinical death. The Texas resident claimed to have seen God in the afterlife. Douglas Branson had for some time suffered from a severe form of insomnia and drank regularly at the hospital. The guy was prescribed powerful sleeping pills, a drug, but doctors didn't suspect that the patient had been drinking alcohol. And as a result, on one of the days of taking sleeping pills mixed with alcohol, the young man's body couldn't withstand the strain, and he suddenly collapsed on the floor. His heart stopped for a few minutes. Douglas was lucky that his roommate was at home and called. When did the paramedics manage to resuscitate him? He said that during those few minutes his whole life flashed before his eyes. And then he saw a bright tunnel that literally attracted him. At the end of the tunnel, Douglas claimed he was led to the image of God himself, who told him to return to his body and change his life. For reasons unknown, Douglas and his family chose to remain incognito and only his name is known. But one thing is for sure, this incredible encounter helped Branson radically rethink his goals and priorities to start his life with a clean slate. But the following story, which I am about to tell relatively recently, shocked many people in Germany. His 3-year-old toddler Paul Blake came back to life more than 3 hours after his heart stopped beating. The toddler was playing in his grandparents' yard and fell into a deep pond. He was unconscious in the pond for several minutes before his grandfather realized what had happened and ran to rescue his grandson. As soon as he was pulled to shore, his father came running in and began giving him heart massage and CPR for the 10 minutes it took for the rescue helicopter to arrive. Doctors tried for hours to resuscitate the little boy, and after 3 hours and 18 minutes, the floor's heart began beating on its own. Professor Lothar Schweiger, director of the Helios Clinic where the baby was taken, said, "I have never experienced anything like this." When children are in a state of clinical death for such a long time, they usually do not survive. This is the most unusual case in my practice. Once the child recovered, he told his parents that while unconscious, he saw his great-grandmother, Amy, who turned him away from the shining gate and convinced him to return to his parents. Paul said, "There was a lot of light, and I was swimming. I came to the gate and saw my grandmother on the other side. She said to me, 'What are you doing here?' clown. You have to go back to Mama and Papa. I'll wait for you here. It's an amazing story that shook all of Germany and the small town of Lichting where the family lives. These are truly heartwarming stories, aren't they, friends? Sandra Ellie, a nurse from Plymouth, was watching TV at home when suddenly she felt a terrible pain in her chest. When the piercing pain made it impossible for her to breathe normally anymore, at the same moment, it felt as if the woman was flying upright at breakneck speed through a tunnel, with some scary faces flashing above her. At the end of the tunnel, Sandra saw light, but the faster she flew, the farther it got. Then the woman seemed to break away from her own body, lifted toward the ceiling, and all the pain was gone. Sandra wished not to show her face, but gave an interview to a well-known publication. I didn't feel my weight and breathe freely. There was a feeling of extraordinary lightness, peace, and bliss. I felt my body again, and probably in that moment, my heart started up again, Sarah says. She woke up her brother, who was asleep in his room. He told her, "You look like a ghost." When they called the doctors, they rushed her to the hospital. They later said there was a vascular blockage and that she was very close to death. In an interview with a local television station, she said that she had been praying a lot ever since, though she had never been religious before. The woman is sure she saw hell in that tunnel, and then when she took off, she saw heaven. Dr. Mary Neal worked as an orthopedic surgeon and loved to travel with her husband. He's on one such trip to Chile. An event occurred that changed the woman's life forever. While kayaking down a waterfall, Mary's kayak hit the bottom and became completely submerged in the water. But despite the rescue efforts of her friends, the woman was underwater for about 20 minutes too long. As a result of this accident, Mary experienced clinical death. After resuscitation, she said that she left her body and met celestial beings and heard the voice of God. So Mary even wrote a book called Tell to Heaven and Back, in which she describes her amazing experience. The woman's life was forever changed, and she says she understood her purpose on Earth in a new way. Do you think these amazing survivor stories are proof that otherworldly life exists? Rate your answers in the comments. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. Also, please like it and subscribe to my channel. See you all again.